It's almost 2 in the morning. Your phone lights up with a message that says nothing but, "Hey, stranger." You already know you're going to answer it, even though this is the exact same person who left you on red for 9 days straight. Let's talk about that pull, and start with the crumbs keeping you on the hook. A crumb is a meme sent at midnight with no context. A crumb is a like on a photo you posted 3 weeks ago, or an "I miss you" that never actually becomes a day, a time, or a place. None of those things are a relationship. Each one is engineered to be the exact minimum amount of attention required to keep you hungry, without ever feeding you. Sticking around for these scraps isn't a character flaw. What you are experiencing is a vulnerability to a highly specific, invisible psychological design. You aren't in a relationship. You are sitting at a slot machine. To see how that machine works, run a random Tuesday night from both sides of the screen. Look at the exact same silence from two entirely different realities. On their end, your message arrives, and they feel a small flicker of pressure. They set the phone face down, they tell themselves they'll get to it later, and then they genuinely forget. The unread message is a mild afterthought. They're just washing the dishes. Meanwhile, your reality is a biological event. A delayed reply triggers a genuine physiological threat response in your nervous system. Your heart rate climbs, cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes and stays up. That chemical flood translates directly into self-blame. You convince yourself you said the wrong thing, that you pushed too hard, that you were too much, and now you have to fix the damage before they slip away for good. That gap between a mild afterthought and a 5-alarm fire is the core tragedy of breadcrumbing. One person is casually having a moment, while the other is desperately trying to maintain a relationship. To understand why that gap hurts so much, we have to look at the work of behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner in the 1950s. He accidentally discovered why the space between sender and receiver is so highly addictive. Skinner put pigeons in boxes with a lever and a food tray. When the birds received a food pellet reliably every single time they pecked the lever, they stayed calm. Eventually, they got lazy, pecking only when hungry and ignoring the lever the rest of the time. But when Skinner changed the rules so the food arrived completely at random, maybe on the 3rd peck, maybe on the 40th, with no predictable pattern, the behavior flipped. The pigeons began pecking frantically and relentlessly, unable to stop. This chart highlights that anomaly. While the reliable reward creates a flat, steady baseline, the unpredictable reward generates a highly volatile spike pattern. Researchers call this a variable ratio schedule, and it is the most addictive reward pattern known to behavioral science. Take that exact math and put it on a casino floor. This is the precise mechanism inside every slot machine ever built. It drives gambling addiction by making uncertainty itself the drug. Put your phone where the lever was. An inconsistent texter is no longer a partner. They are a psychological lever, and your brain will pull it until your thumb aches. This graph illustrates exactly how your brain processes that waiting game. Most people assume the dopamine hit comes when the message finally arrives, but the highest dopaminergic surge happens before the reward. The spike lives entirely in the anticipation, the uncertainty, the maybe. The wait is the hit. Casinos weaponize this anticipation using the near miss, like 2 cherries locking into place while the 3rd lands just off the line. Look at how the near miss creates a massive chemical spike that abruptly drops, tricking the reward circuit into thinking the jackpot is one pull away. Empty promises and almost plans from a bad texter do the exact same thing to your brain. This works so well because it maps perfectly onto old software. If you had early caregivers who gave you attention in unpredictable bursts, your nervous system learned to interpret chaos and unpredictability as love. Because your body encoded love as something you have to win over and over, a steady, reliable partner who texts back every time doesn't register as safe. They register as boring. There is no uncertainty to chase and no gap to fill with longing. You aren't drawn to people who treat you badly. You are drawn to the familiar feeling of not knowing, mistaking the high-stakes anxiety of a slot machine for the safety of home. Staying seated at that machine carries a concrete cost. Clinical research shows that people subjected to chronic breadcrumbing report significantly lower life satisfaction, heightened isolation, and a profound sense of helplessness. That deep loneliness you feel isn't a sign that you need this person more. It is a symptom of starving on artificial crumbs. You are constantly being reminded of a meal you are never going to get. You stay seated because of the sunk cost fallacy. Gamblers fall into the dangerous belief that because they've already invested so much time in anxiety, a massive payout has to be coming to make it all worth it. When your stomach ties in knots at the thought of finally demanding clarity from them, it isn't hope keeping you quiet. It is the fear of losing even the scraps you've worked so hard to earn. You cannot outsmart a variable ratio schedule. You don't beat it by acting perfectly chill or crafting the perfect measured reply. The only way to win is to stop playing. You start by naming it. The next time a late-night text arrives, say out loud that it is just a machine feeding you a crumb to keep you seated. Verbally acknowledging the mechanics strips the dynamic of its romantic power. Fair warning, stepping away will initially feel like acute chemical withdrawal, and the closer you get to the door, the more likely the house is to cough up a token, a reappearing text, or a sudden compliment to lure you right back to the chair. When those cravings hit, remember that your intense responses were never signs that you were broken, or needy, or too much. They were just old survival software doing its job. Steady love isn't the absence of passion, it's the absence of a slot machine. And you deserve warmth you never have to gamble for.